What's up, Dolphins? Travis Wingfield with you guys here, the host of the Drive Time podcast, and I am thrilled to be joined by John Kinjemi, co-host of the Audible podcast, all on the Miami Dolphins official podcast network. And today, we're talking 2020 NFL Draft, and in particular, defensive backs. This class, John, is deep, it's versatile, it's got guys that can play off the ball, guys that can come down, cover, and do multiple things for your defense.
Well, just like we talked about the front seven, Travis, guys that can play the edge, guys that can move around from nose tackle to defensive tackle, outside, inside linebacker, maybe play a little strong safety. I think the back end of this draft, especially in the first and second round, you're going to get guys that can play close to the line of scrimmage and safety, that can play center field, corners that can play inside slot nickel, that can play on the edge and run man-to-man, stride for stride with a lot of the NFL receivers. So you have a lot of speed, you have a lot of talent, and you have a lot of eye candy that's going to be taken really early in this draft. I think each guy that we're going to break down is going to go within the first, 45 to 60 picks.
And the first guy on our list, XAVIER McKINNEY, one of the top safeties in this class this year, John.
Yeah, McKinney gives you position flexibility, just as you said, Travis, a guy that can kind of roam in center field and be that safety valve, that last line of defense, where he can come up and strike you from the strong safety spot, play that edge defender on the line of scrimmage when you go 5-6 DBs, as the Miami Dolphins did a lot in 2019, and I think they'll do in 2020. You're going to have guys that are going to have to play integral roles in this defense and have to be able to flip from a guy that's playing man-to-man coverage to a guy that's playing soft and zone in center field to a guy that can come up and be that sixth and seventh defender along the line of scrimmage. McKinney does that, and I like the way he plays from center field.
Those instincts, he's technically sound, a lot of fun to watch. I had a chance to ask him at the scouting combine what it was like to practice against that Alabama offense, because you have an All-American quarterback. You have 4 potential first-round draft picks at receiver. And he also played against 3 different offensive systems there at Alabama with new coordinators. And he was always a step ahead in the mental part of the game, too. So very important stuff there for XAVIER McKINNEY. One of the reasons he's one of the top safeties in this year's class. A counterpart of his, LSU's Grant Delpit, playing against those Alabama Crimson Tide offenses. He knows all about that all too well. And this guy plays the game at 100 miles an hour, John.
Well, he's a 3-year starter. And much like McKinney, I think anytime you watch LSU, yeah, you see the big names, but there's a guy in the backfield that was flashing all over the field. I was like, who is this? It's Grant Delpit. And he's got size. He's 6'2", 215 pounds. So he can also come up like McKinney, play along the line of scrimmage, and he's not a sure tackler on the edge, but he sure gets there first. So he's allowed to slow up a running back in space. He can get a slot that's taking a bubble screen, chase him back to the inside where help's coming from.
He certainly is one of those guys that changes the temperature in the locker room. He's going to come into your locker room and make everybody around him better. He's going to lead by example. He's going to lead with his voice. Very good player there at LSU. And in talking about versatility among these guys, I don't know if anybody in this position group checks that box better than this next guy on our list, Minnesota's ANTOINE Winfield. He closed the year with 7 interceptions. He forced 2 fumbles. He has punt returns for touchdowns in his career. He plays all over the defense, deep safety, covers the slot. John, a lot to like about ANTOINE Winfield Jr.
And he played right away for the Gophers on defense. You know, this is a guy that played as a freshman. He's under a 4.5 40 guy, and he can run. And he's not going to give you the size as McKinney and Delpit, but when you watch him play, he's never out of position. All those traits about study habits, about landmarks, about disguising coverage, he's done this from an early age. So you know you're going to get a complete player, a polished player as your last line of defense. And I agree with you. He does everything very, very well.
He talked at the combine about watching tape with his father when he was like 10, 11 years old, watching him go up against guys like Randy Moss. So he certainly has the pedigree there in his back pocket. And when you watch Minnesota play last year, every time they needed a big play on defense, it was ANTOINE Winfield. He had a game-clinching pick against Fresno State. Technically sound, versatile, does everything you want on the back end. Now, talking about versatility, let's move up to the front of the defense, the cornerback position out wide. And Miami's got a pair of really, really good ones in Xavier Howard and Byron Jones out there. But this year's draft class with Jeffrey OKUDAH, you want to talk about great feet, great technique. I don't know if anyone's better than him in that regard.
Elite footwork and quickness to be able to mirror outside wide receivers. That's the thing that jumps off the screen. And when you're watching, Ohio State play throughout last season, every time you flip on and see number 1, he's glued to somebody else. He's one of the best corners coming out that can run with anybody, that has complete body control, and that's not afraid to be physical out on the edge. So you got to think he's going to go in the top 5 to 7 picks.
And his ability to play between man and zone coverage, whether he's, getting to a spot and kind of putting his back to the sideline or coming up and pressing at the line of scrimmage, he is not only really good at both those things, but if he does get beat initially, you mentioned the footwork, John, it allows him to get back in position to recover and make a play on the football. Really, really good player there from Ohio State. The next guy on our list comes from LSU, also one of the best cover corners in terms of just pure man coverage, KRISTIAN Fulton. This guy, we talk about temperature changers and Grant Delpit. KRISTIAN Fulton is a competitive dude on the outside of your defense.
He is. He's a complete player. And just as guys do it in different ways and get the job done, I think when I watch Fulton, I think smooth, because the way he backpedals and the way he feels confident in giving some cushion because he knows he can close that gap. You feel good about different coverage combinations you can throw with these guys. OKUDAH can do everything. Fulton can do everything. And I think the next guy you're going to mention is Henderson from Florida. He kind of fits that bill as well.
Yeah, he's got a lot of length. He's got good speed, good ball skills. This guy tracks the football like a receiver, whether it's going up and taking the ball away from the high point or digging it out low. I really like watching him play in man coverage, stick into these guys, and just basically run the route for the receiver. You see some of that too?
I do. And what makes it kind of, you stick your chest out a little bit. This is a local product from Miami. Grew up in Miami, went to Christopher Columbus High School, went to Florida. So he's never left really the state of Florida. And some Dolphin fans are hoping he doesn't leave the state of Florida. And maybe the Miami Dolphins may take a peek at him. But he is a guy like that. He's instinctive in man-to-man coverage. I'm not going to say he doesn't want to tackle. He'll get there. I think that's one of the things that some of these guys are going to have to kind of get a little bit better at. But at least you see him around the football when it's on the perimeter. And that's all you can ask, because all three of these guys aren't getting drafted because of their tackling ability. They want to be able to cover man-to-man. They want to leave him out on an island. All three of these guys can do that.
You kind of see our faces light up talking about some of these guys. It's a deep class on offense, on defense, lots of versatility, good speed, good players for the modern game. It's a good time to have 14 draft picks. I'm Travis Wingfield, host of the Drive Time podcast. He is John Congemi, co-host of the Audible podcast on the official Miami Dolphins podcast network, previewing the 2020 NFL Draft.